Many of you have asked us to talk more about the ERAS CV, what to write, how to write, and the mistakes to avoid. So in this video, we'll talk about the structure of your ERAS CV, the mistakes you should avoid, and how to use the ERAS CV to maximize your interviews. Welcome YouTube. So today we'll talk about ERAS CV, one of the most important components of your entire residency application. And we'll tell you some tips and tricks to maximize how you use your ERAS CV for the eventual match. If it's your first time here, then subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram so that we can keep you updated on the latest information and news about USMLE and the residency match. Of course, many of you already know that the ERAS CV is the most important component of your application. And some of you who are new may not be aware that ERAS already has a format. So you don't have to worry too much about creating your own format. You have to just put in the information in that format. Now, the issue that we see is a lot of applicants will spend several days and hours on your personal statement, which is obviously should be the case. However, they try to finish the ERAS CV in a couple of hours, and that leads to a lot of mistakes, a lot of errors, and then maybe leading to you not getting matched. So before we start on what exactly to write and how to write it, let me tell you what these programs are looking for in the ERAS CV. And over the past few years, we have evaluated almost 5,000 ERAS CVs. So this is based on that experience of our panelists, of our team. So one of the first things they look for in your ERAS CV is the evidence of your clinical acumen. Then they're also looking for your teamwork, the skills that you have demonstrated in patient interaction. Then what are the major red flags you need to avoid in your CV? One is the grammatical errors. So that you have to really take care of. Second is unnecessary fluff in your CV, repetition in your CV, in same information over and over again. And finally is outright lying. So these are the things you really have to avoid in your CV. And we'll talk about these, as I said, as we continue in this video. So first, let's talk about your experiences, the work experiences. These obviously form the core of your CV and are very important. The thing to note here is do not repeat the same information again and again. And when you're writing something, make sure to clarify. Let me give you one example. We see very often candidates writing, I actively participated in, say, morning rounds. What does this active participation even mean? So unless you clarify that, this is just a buzzword that no one cares about. Second, mention your role, but don't keep repeating the same stuff over and over again. So for example, again, many applicants keep writing in every experience they were responsible for the history, physical. This is not adding any value to your CV. You're already supposed to know it. And even if you have to mention it in maybe one experience, not more than that, and then move on. Third, when you have written down your role, you have to focus on your clinical experiences, on the issues you addressed and the challenges you overcame. Third, don't forget that it's all about patient. It is a patient-centric country. It is a patient-centric program that you're going to go into. So don't forget your patients. Talk about the demographics, talk about your patient counseling, talk about family meetings that you may have done. Everything about patients needs to come in your CV. Of course, as you're talking about the impact you created, don't forget that it's a teamwork. So whether you work with other nurse practitioners, medical assistants, pharmacists, social workers, the entire stakeholders that you have, talk about teamwork issues that you gelled with the team and how maybe there were issues that you were able to resolve. So teamwork, remember, is very important. And finally, round off your experience by talking about your achievements and your learnings. That again is an important part of each experience if you can articulate it. Now, volunteer experience should follow the same structure as a work experience I mentioned. However, notice that in volunteer experience, a couple of things differ, and that's what they're looking for. First, they are looking for your ability to give back to the community where you reside, where you've lived in, whether it's your college or hometown. So do you actually give back to the community? That is an important skill they want to see. Second, they want to see this skill and experiences around empathy. Can you actually demonstrate empathy, whether it is to your patients or to the community that you're in? So these two are very important skills. And the third skill is leadership, because your work experience may or may not give you this opportunity to demonstrate leadership skills, but definitely in volunteering, you may have had these opportunities to demonstrate leadership skills. It is important. And if there has been cases where you've demonstrated leadership skills, think about it and articulate it well. Then comes the research experiences. Now, one of the biggest mistakes we see in the research experiences that students mention their role, which is important, but then they just describe the paper or the abstract, which is absolutely not required. This will be part of the publication. So what you have to focus on is, again, outcomes are important. So if you publish something, mention it, but there are other things besides this publication that should be part of your research experience. For example, if you learned some tool, SPSS, SAS, etc., that should be a big part. If you've learned this kind of analysis, if you have created surveys, if you have gathered the data, all that, you need to demonstrate what you have learned. Again, research is also teamwork. So mention the aspects of teamwork, mention the aspects of even project management that you may have picked. Relevance of these skills to residency. If you can link the two, then you're golden. Finally, the other important part of the CV is your hobbies, extracurricular activities. Again, something which is very undervalued by the IMG community. So go beyond saying, I love cooking or I love watching YouTube. Think through your hobbies. Hobbies are built over the years. So think about your hobbies, how they have shaped you as a person. Give the programs an insight into your non-medical personality. That is the importance of the hobbies. And remember, while hobbies may not get you the interviews, but once you are in that interview room or doing the interviews virtually, that is your chance to shine. Sometimes your hobbies can connect with the interviewer, and the entire discussion in the interviews can be on hobbies. So do not underestimate your hobbies and go beyond the generic. Remember, quality is more important than quantity. So listing 15 hobbies is not going to help you. So all the experience are under the umbrella of this very important thing, which I call attention to details, or say in this case would be the appropriate use of grammar, whether it's punctuations, periods, or even grammatical errors. So use tools like Grammarly, they are important, and they show to the program that you have this attention to details, because if you make mistakes in residency or otherwise as a physician, bad things could happen to your patients. So they want to see that you can pay attention to these details, these CVs and personal statement. Grammar is very important. You don't need to use complicated vocabulary. Use simple words, simple sentences, but make sure there are no grammatical errors and so on. Then I'm going to give you another list of to-dos for your ERAS application. Again, very important, but many students miss this. So let's go over that. First, of course, complete the entire ERAS form, including each description. So do not leave like the name of your supervisor or number of hours empty. That is not good. So try to fill as much information about each experience as possible. Second, the common mistake we see is inflating the number of hours. So there are times when you may not have the exact hours. Use averages, but they should make sense. So let me give you one example. You may be working 40 hours a week. You may be in a rotation or something, but at the same time, you're also volunteering. Now, it is unlikely that you're working 40 hours a week and you're using for another 40 hours to volunteer. That gets too much. And these are the things that then the programs catch on. So 80 hours is very unlikely. So make sure you average out the hours and make them realistic. For IMGs with home country residency, make sure to bring out your experience in the residency. They are the most important experiences, and that they will give you a unique edge. And many IMGs Just don't talk about their residency thinking that this may be in a different specialty. But remember, there are skills that are transferable to your specialty to which you are applying. So make use of your home country specialty. Same goes for older YOGs and IMGs who may have extensive experience in the home countries. They undervalue that experiences. But remember, many of these experiences, such as working in resource constrained environment, whether it is the patient demographics, people who may be poor, illiterate, educational issues, you will be facing the same challenges here. So if you have done it in your home country, that is always an advantage. So bring it out. Then again, if you have had COVID experience, inpatient COVID experience in your home country, that is very, very valuable. Do not forget. That is one of the most unique experience you could have gotten over the past 2 years. If you have it, use it to your best advantage. The other challenge you have is to keep the information very crisp. Do not repeat the same information, the same fluff. Keep it limited, but articulate it well, simple sentences so that the reader can understand very, very quickly what you're trying to say. Understand that the time is limited. Their time is limited, and you want to give them the best about your experiences without overwhelming them with too much information. The other thing you should realize is anything on your ERAS CV and personal statement is a fair game for interviews. So whatever you write, be prepared to talk about it, whether it is the hobby, volunteer activities, research, work experience. You will not be in a position to say, I did it long ago, I do not remember. Then I want to also clarify some other questions, very common question that we are seeing on Facebook and Telegram groups that we run. One is what email ID to use. So of course, use a professional email ID, even if it's a Google, Gmail, or something. If you have a .edu, that's always good to use, so you can use that. But your professional ID should be used. So first name dot last name dot first name, or something very professional, simple, which people can relate to your name. That is always the best ID to use. Second, people ask about the address. Should you always use US address? Of course, if you have ties to the city, ties to a state, you have done rotations there or something else, yes, using US address is always preferable. However, this also you have to just realize and remember, if you've never been to the US, if you've had no visa, etc., it is very hard to justify to the program using a US address. So there has to be some balance, and you are the best judge on whether you can use the US address or not. Finally, another thing that many students don't realize is your application photo, the picture really, really matters. Do not undercut it. So I have seen students using their wedding pictures, and I don't know why they would do it, but yes, use a professional picture. Go to your local photographer, or here in the US, CVS or something, get a professional picture done to use it. Finally, a couple of don'ts that you should absolutely avoid. One is plagiarism. So again, what we have seen is students from the same university, or they know each other. Many of their experiences are exactly the same. Remember, the programs have been doing it for years. The program directors and others in the committee, they can easily figure out that the experiences have been copied. And you don't want to be in a situation where you've copied the experiences, because frankly, all IMGs or most IMGs will apply to programs which are IMG friendly. So it is, if you copied someone's experience, it's likely that they may be also applying to the same program. It also goes back to if you're copying from your seniors or things like that. The programs have a habit, and they can remember that these experiences are copied. So avoid plagiarism at all costs. Finally, again, let me round it off by saying that spend time on your CV. This is not a 2 hour job. It can take several hours, several days. Pay attention to all the things that we have mentioned, but it can be a very powerful tool for your residency match. So that was all that we had. Good luck for your application season, and we'll have more videos on the residency interviews in the coming few weeks.